Welcome. My name is Jerry Sunarine, and today's lesson will look at how can we use perimeter to help us solve story problems. Before we get into today's lesson, we're going to do a bit of review and understand what is a regular polygon and some examples of regular polygons and some diagrams that look like it. A regular polygon is when all angles are equal and all sides are equal. When we talk about all angles are equal, we use a vocabulary word called equiangular. And when we're talking about all the sides are equal, we're talking about equilateral. Equiangular means equal angles, equilateral means equal sides, lateral means sides. Here are some examples of what regular polygons we can work with and to recognize. It's important to know that when we're dealing with these vocabulary and these shapes that we understand and recognize what they mean. So for example, if we're talking about a regular octagon, we want you to understand that an octagon has 8 sides. If we're talking about a regular nonagon, we're talking about a figure that has 9 sides. If we're talking about a figure that's a regular hexagon, we want you to know that it is 6 sides. So we're going to go through some questions and work through them. Okay, Gale makes a miniature stop sign, a regular octagon, with a perimeter of 48 centimeters, for a town he built with blocks. What is the length of each side of the stop sign? So pause the video, think about how you would work through this problem, and we will compare your answers on the next slide. Okay, so when working through this type of problem, it's important to read the problem to get an understanding of what it's talking about. From here, we want to develop a plan and steps to get to our answer. So the first step is to determine the number of sides the figure has. So since we're dealing with an octagon, you may know this, it is an 8-sided figure. So it's helpful to have a diagram, and we can count the diagram, the figure, and see how many sides it has. So again, a regular octagon has 8 sides. Then the next step is divide the given perimeter by the number of sides. Okay, so we know that the given perimeter in the problem tells us that it's 48 centimeters. So we're going to see we're going to add up all the sides, which are the same value, and we're going to set it equal to 48. And just as a reminder, all the sides are the same, hence regular octagon. When we talk about a regular octagon or any type of regular polygon, all the sides are the same. And since we do not know the value of each side, we can use the variable s. So since s, we don't know what it is, we're going to use some math and solve it algebraically. So here I wrote down 8 s's for each of the sides of the octagon, and what we're going to do is set it equal to 48. When we add up all the s's, we've noticed that there are 8s equals 48. To get rid of the 8, we're going to do inverse operations, and we're going to divide 8 on both sides, giving us each side is 6. Therefore, each side is 6 centimeters. And notice how I included the units here as my final answer. Okay, we're going to look at our next problem. Tariq is making a fence around his garden. The fence is in the shape of a regular pentagon with a perimeter of 65 centimeters. What is the length of each side of the garden? Okay, so pause the video, think about how you would work through this problem, and we're going to compare our answers on the next slide. Okay, so when looking at this figure, we're dealing with a regular pentagon, which means that it has 5 sides. And because it's regular, each of the sides are the same. So when we set up our math problem, we're going to add 5 s's, and again, we're going to use s because we don't know what each value is, but we do know the whole perimeter is 65 centimeters. So we're going to include the 5 s's here. We're going to set it equal to 65. We're going to combine this. Since there's s's here, we're going to say 5s is equal to 65. We're going to bring it down, and we're going to divide. Get rid of the 5, because 5 and s are being multiplied, we do the inverse operation. Divide 5 on both sides. 65 divided by 5 is 13. Therefore, each side is 13 centimeters. Okay, we're going to go through one last question. Imani is making a quilt. The figure she is using is a regular decagon. Has material to make a perimeter of 30 centimeters. What is the length of each side of the pattern? So again, pause the video, think about key vocabulary words, and think about a plan and steps you would use to solve this problem. Okay, so when working through this problem, it might be helpful for students to count the sides of a decagon, and we'll notice that a decagon has 10 sides. Deca, like decimals, it has prefix that means 10. That is super helpful for students to understand. Next, we're going to figure out that since there's 10 sides, each of the sides are the same value because again, it's a regular polygon. So we're going to add 10 s's and we're going to set it equal to 30 because that's the perimeter. When we combine all of these s's, there are 10 s and it's going to equal to 30. We're going to do inverse operations by dividing 10 on both sides, and we get 30 divided by 10, which is 3. So each side is 3 centimeters. And finally, we're going to go into summarization. So how can we use perimeter to help us solve story problems? Determine the number of sides the figure has. Divide the perimeter value with the number of sides. Here's an example that demonstrates that. Hope this was helpful and have a great day.